What's that?
Kill your camera. They're ready. What do you?
Oops.
Kevin, go ahead.
Start the meeting. What was that?
You can
Start
start
the
the meeting.
Oh. All right. Okay. I participate and submit public comment in this meeting. This meeting will be held in the select board meeting room at the town office, also available immediately through the Zoom platform. Remote participation and or public comment during the meeting may be submitted to the Zoom platform. Browser application or by phone at 1-646-558-8656 and meeting ID number and passcode. Workshop is 830-7955-2394. Passcode is 041081. And attendees with their desire to speak, will raise your hand or star 9 on your phone, and this should only happen at an appropriate point for public comment. And unmute your connected device, star 6 by phone. Attendees must start by stating their name before commenting. At this point, we'll start with the select board workshop with the field committee regarding the waterfront project. Take it away, Ms. Hart.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'll go quickly since it's now 5:20 or so. This workshop started when the Mitchell Field Committee, a couple of weeks ago, I guess it was more than a month ago now, had a very brief discussion about what the status of the Mitchell Field boat launch project and the ship grants were. And as a result of that, they asked to have a workshop with the select board to review that information or where we were. Subsequent to that, I'm gonna call it nag Barney Baker of GEI about the status of where things were. And after a sort of 3 or 4 weeks of non-response, I got an email from Barney saying that he had essentially retired from GEI. He was only going to be working for them on a sort of like on-call basis when things were overloaded. And that Dan Bannon, an engineer at GEI, would take over the boat launch project. As I said in the cover memo that I think most of you received, Dan used to work for Barney Baker at Baker Design Consultants and was involved in the pier demolition project. So Dan is familiar with Mitchell Field. But that sort of, I guess in my mind, answered some of the questions about what was going on or wasn't going on. The third piece of the puzzle is shortly after the Mitchell Field Committee meeting, I got a call from the project manager at Maine DOT for the ship grants about what was going on, where things stood, and that they would like to have a meeting with Jerry and his supervisor who runs the waterfront programs. We had a Zoom meeting, and the simple summary of that meeting was that they were concerned about the lack of progress in moving the project forward, and essentially they gave the town a deadline of July 1 to be prepared to go to bid with the project if the town intends to move forward. They expressed concern that I think was not unlike what came up at Mitchell Field, that costs continue to go up for all of their projects, and that if you will, the word on the street was that marine contractors or other earthwork contractors that do the kind of work that would be involved in the boat launch are in high demand as a result of the series of storms, and are charging, let's call it premium prices, or as someone said, working for whoever will pay the most to get it done. So that sort of got us to here. Subsequent to that going on, I talked with Dan Bannon at GEI about sort of three things. Could he clarify where the permitting for the project stands? Second, what he thought about what the cost escalation might have been since the last estimate in December of 2022, and if the town moves ahead, could they complete the work necessary to have a project ready to bid by July 1. The July 1 date, though, is not you have to start construction. The folks from Maine Department of Transportation said that if the project is ready to go to bid, and the town in fact chooses to bid it, that, it would be likely that construction might not occur until 2025 or some such time period. And so, Dan, I'm gonna call it, talked to Barney, scrounged around in the project files, and determined that at this point, the town has not received I'm seeing myself on the screen, that's all right. That the town has not received either the DEP NERPA permit nor the Army Corps permit. There was apparently a series of back and forth. I was involved in some of them between Barney and DEP over, we want more information, Barney sending them more information, we want a eelgrass survey, Barney doing the eelgrass survey, etc. But Dan said it appears at this point that everything the DEP requested has been submitted to them. Technically, they have a 4-month window to act on the project once they find it complete. If they don't, the project is deemed to be approved. And it appears that somewhere in the process, the issue of a stormwater permit has gotten lost. DEP raised the issue about the need for a stormwater permit back last fall. We amended GEI's contract to have them do the stormwater permit. Barney and I had numerous discussions about it. Barney prepared a permit for a permit by rule for a stormwater permit. DEP has a record of the fee for the application being received, but they can't find any application. And Dan is not sure whether it was ever submitted to DEP or not. So I guess I would put the permitting as sort of in limbo, if you will. But Dan thought that as far as he can determine, there's nothing that can't be resolved in the near future. The second question I asked Dan was about the costs, and he did not have time between last week and Monday to sort of go back through item by item, but gave me a updated, I'm gonna call it guesstimate of cost based upon what they've been seeing for other projects. And that's included in the material I've provided you. Essentially, depending upon when construction occurs, I think Dan's guesstimate of the increase in the cost is probably in the $100,000 to $120,000 range from the 2022 estimate. That assumes construction in 2025. And then, I think I already said it, but in terms of being able to complete the engineering, complete the site plan review permit for the town, most of that work has been done. I told Barney to hold off on submitting the site plan review application until we were sure that DEP or Army Corps wasn't gonna require any changes, but that shouldn't be there. So, I gave you today sort of what I call the financial summary of the project, and I'm just gonna go really quickly through it. It's a one-pager that says financial overview. As of a year ago, that total project cost was just under $850,000. That included the money from the two SHIP grants reimbursing 50% of allowable costs up to a maximum of $357,000. $357,000 of local match that's in the Mitchell Field Capital Reserve account, and an additional $135,000 that was approved at last year's town meeting and put into the Capital Reserve account to have available a total of $849,000. We have spent out of that amount a little over $69,000 on engineering services. That covers two parts. The first part was around $33,000 plus for the engineering bidding for the original town dock project, which in some places I think I said was abandoned because the bids came in way over what money was available. The town went back and worked with MainDOT to reallocate the money from the two original grants, one for the dock, one for the boat launch, to move most of the money to the boat launch. So the second item there, if you have the sheet of $35,000, was the engineering for the boat launch project, with a total of $69,000. So, deducting those two, there is dollars remaining in their contract that they have not been paid for. And so that leaves us about $768,000, almost $769,000 for the construction. And if you look at the last thing there, the 2022 cost estimate was for $768,000. That's where the request for the additional $135,000 came from. That was approved by town meeting, March town meeting a year ago. At this point, that's the funds that are available to go forward with the project. And I just put a number in here based upon GEI's, again, I'm gonna call it guesstimate, and for construction in 2025, I guess you might call it estimated cost is probably around $880,000. So that's where we are. I think the decision before the town is really, do we go forward and go GEI to here and finish the permitting, finish the design, and the bids together and go forward. And the subset of that is, do we look for more money or do we not go forward?
Well, I have a proposal. But first of all, I lost stormwater application. But as it stands, with the money that we have and the money we need, it's between $91,000 and $116,000 short. But there are several things we can take out of it and put in later. The parking, for example, the truck parking, the trailer parking.
That's not correct.
Why isn't it?
What is in the budget is the minimum things that have to be in the project for the town to receive the ship.
No, I'm not saying take it out. I'm saying there are other things that we can do to provide that parking.
That's correct. There was $50,000 in the budget.
So we need to provide the truck parking, I agree. The sidewalk along the causeway could go in later. I mean, there are things here that could make up for that shortfall. I don't think we need to raise more money right now. The pavement for parking, I mean, there are things that we can take out and put them in later.
I think we've gone this far.
Probably should let GI go ahead and send out a bid package, and let's see where we're at.
Yeah,
The
we
bid
start with
package
that.
comes back, the bidding comes back, and then we can pick, if there's items in there that can be removed to save some money, we can do it.
Yeah, start with getting, push the button and go, and then see what we got, yeah.
What's the committee think?
I'm in favor of what Kevin just said. We have waited so long to do this project. We've now seen a slight drop in the pricing. We're sort of in a sweet spot, probably in terms of cost of construction. We've got the things in it that we need to meet the SHIP grant and to make it a really good quality project. And I don't see why we have to start chopping away at it at this point. I think Kevin's exactly right. Let's find out what it really is going to cost, add the 10% because we're not sure, and then decide what to do. This town spent, bonded for a couple $1 million to take down a pier. I think we could come up with $100,000, $16,000, according to these numbers, to somehow put this project into play and get it over with. Otherwise we're going to push it out things aren't going to get done. And I'm not with you, Dave, on just fussing and fiddling with it at this point.
No, I'm saying when the bids come in to what we're looking at, instead of asking for more money, we can defer some of these things until later. I'm not saying take them out, we can defer them.
That
But
to me is
yes,
fussing.
but yes, we should push the button and go forward with this, yeah.
So, Mark, I have a question about the numbers, the more detailed stuff you sent us. There was a base bid and then additional items. Is this number we're looking at on your summary sheet, the potential 860 to 885, the base bid or everything?
Hold on, Jane. Ask me your question again.
Okay, on the material you sent out earlier, these guys, there is a base bid for construction, and then there's base bid plus alternatives. And then, so is this 860,000 on your summary sheet, is that base bid plus alternatives or just base bid?
That is for the project that was included in the estimate in 2022, that included the construction of the boat launch and the launch floats, the provision for ADA parking on the causeway, to reconnect the little piece of gravel road that got loamed over, and to construct a stub pier at the end of the causeway to fulfill the original project to provide future access for floats at the end of the causeway. That's sort of something that the state has held us to.
Right.
And the walkway. It also includes a contingency at that time of $50,000 and provision for improving what's commonly called the truck turnaround or whatever, to provide trailer parking in the amount of $50,000. So that was the total cost at that time, including engineering, of $788,000. If you take out where we are, the eights, so the 768 that's on the one pager is the 2022 estimated cost for doing that package, and the 860, 880 is the guesstimate of the cost of doing it in 2025.
Thank you.
Well, I have a question. Why are we still waiting around for Maine DEP? Is Maine DOT gonna start talking to them? I mean, they lay this 1 July deadline on us. We're still sitting around waiting for permits.
The answer of Maine DOT is that if it's been 4 months since we provided the information to DEP, the town should declare the project approved and go forward with the project based upon that basis.
And what is that start date?
I don't know the answer to that, and at this point, Dan does not know the answer to that either.
Yeah.
So if they can't find the permit, are they going to say we never submitted it? And then therefore, the whole thing is moot.
The issue is really that during, the town submitted the application, and the deadline for DEP to act on it was the end of November, beginning of December, based upon when DEP received the application. But DEP then went through, and as the Army Corps did, and prepared a list of things, additional information that they wanted. And those were submitted kind of one by one as things were prepared and submitted to DEP. And then DEP came back and said, well, we want still more information. And so the question is, when did the 4-month clock actually start running that they had received all of the information? Dan Bannon said he went through and all of the things that DEP requested have been submitted to them. At this point, I do not know when that 4-month clock actually now started running and runs out. But realistically, it should probably be run out by now, because I know as soon as Barney got the request for additional information from both the Army Corps and from DEP, he worked on submitting the application.
But I'm talking about the
stormwater
stormwater
permit. This is a guess on my part, is that somehow the DEP stormwater permit, the permit by rule application, never got submitted. I know it was prepared, I reviewed it, I know Barney paid the fee, but apparently somehow it was not submitted to DEP. That's a quick turnaround though.
All right, okay.
That's a permit by rule. Once you submit it, DEP has 14 days to acknowledge that they have it, and I think that if they have concerns, they have only 14 more days to comment on it.
Okay.
So who do we, classic question, who do we talk to about this? I mean, if there's a permit by rule application, somebody's got a copy of it. Why don't we just get one in? I mean, who is responsible ultimately for sending that to DEP, and why are we talking about it instead of just sending one in?
Well, the answer to that is the town has designated GEI as its agent to deal with DEP and the Army Corps.
Okay, so
I mean, the responsibility is for GEI to do it. And if we tell them tomorrow to do it, they'll do it.
why are we waiting? I'm just confused by this process. I understand the pieces that you're describing, but if one piece is missing, and it's the short piece that would help us, well, two items. One is the PBR needs to get in there and just get, so we know where we stand with it, because that potentially could take another month. But the other question is, who knows when that clock started? Somebody has to be able to make a decision at DEP, and I don't know whether GEI is willing to press the issue or whether the town steps up and presses the issue, but, they can't, excuse my English, but they can't screw us over this thing because they don't have their information sorted out up there. That's driving me out of my mind.
Especially since we've given GEI an awful lot of money.
Say that again, Dave?
I said especially since we've given GEI an awful lot of money.
package be submitted anyways, right now, and
Yes,
in the
yes,
meantime,
yes.
Get the permit straight.
Yes,
can we move forward with it?
yeah, we should get some bids out and get started on this.
And area?
We should get going on the bid process and get started on it.
Yes. So
So as I understand what Mark said earlier, as it relates to the budget amount that we currently have, the 768,000, the only discretionary money we actually have in there is the 50,000 that we put in to deal with the parking issue. Is that correct, Mark?
No, there is a $50,000 contingency item in there as well. Now, is that discretionary? I don't know. I mean, you know, when we did the pier demolition, which was a $3 million project.
Yeah.
You know, we only, this is from memory from 5 or 6 years ago, but we only used like $30,000 or $40,000 out of the contingency for that.
Right.
It's there, it's money that is not, if you will, budgeted toward a specific activity. So there's that. And the original estimate for constructing the parking area was around $90,000, and the town cut it back to 50 based upon the idea that some of that could be done by quote unquote volunteers or whatever.
Right.
The one issue, and this is my caution, is that if the town does stuff and uses the SHIP grant, it has to comply with the state rules for spending their money.
Yeah.
Which means the materials have to meet their specs, which means that the things have to be done and inspected in accordance with their procedures, if that's included, and it needs to be as part of the design of the project. It needs to be built in accordance with the design, or, you know, they're not gonna reimburse the town for money.
So it sounds, I don't know, whatever the squash money is there, between $90,000 and $116,000. Sure.
Yeah, and Don, I'm gonna say, and I keep using the word guesstimate.
Yep.
Dan got involved in this 5 or 6 days ago. And he said, between then and Monday to get me numbers, he couldn't go back through all of Barney's calculations and whatever, but here's what they were seeing in an increase of costs of 6% or so a year. The original estimate was based on construction in 2023, spring of 24. We're now looking at this being bid in 2024 for construction probably in the winter of 2025.
Okay. All right, do we have consensus then, moving this forward? We have another meeting in 5 minutes.
Yep.
Yep.
Could I just ask a question? So essentially, we're going to continue on the path, and the select board will get bid documents that are being prepared by GEI. It will be on a select board agenda, and it will be put out to bid. Mark, can you give us a timeline on when you think that document would be put on a select board agenda?
What the Maine Department of Transportation has said is that they need to see that the bid documents are available by July 1, so I'm gonna say the end of June or beginning of July is sort of their cutoff. And Dan said they could meet that deadline.
If not sooner?
Sooner.
Yeah, I would say if not sooner. I mean, they will do it, I would say expeditiously from what I understand. They understand, I think, that Barney and Dan's supervisor has been involved in this discussion and made a commitment to us months ago that she was assured that it's got taken care of, which obviously hasn't happened. So, I mean, I think there's still a fair amount of work that needs to be done, but I don't think it's going to be much quicker than that. And I think based upon what Chris from Maine Dot was saying, is there probably are advantages of not going to bid right away in July, but waiting until the fall or winter to go to bid, so.
Can the town set up a process to be in touch with GEI and just sort of on a regular basis say, where are we at? And not just depend on them to take this project? I mean, it's a huge company with a lot of things going on, and the squeaky wheel gets the grease, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of Barney, I mean, I use the word nagged. I mean, I regularly in the past 3 months sent him an email every Sunday night or Monday morning and said, where are we? And I would say he was either non-responsive or said, be patient. You know, we've got all these things because of the storms and what have you. And
So what is the relationship between Barney and Bannon then? I guess I'm not clear about that. And, you know, Barney has sort of dropped off the map on us. And does Bannon, you know, is he the contact person now? I mean,
yes, Dan is now the project manager for them. Dan, as I said, formerly worked for Barney. He left Barney, I'm going to say maybe 3 or 4 years ago, went to work for GEI. He's a engineer who's a project manager for them.
I think Mark and I can work together.
who's going to get pestered by the town of Harpswell or GEI?
Yeah.
I think Mark and I will,
And I will also, Dan's supervisor is a longtime professional partner who I've gone over Barney's head to a couple of times, and I will do that again tomorrow and make sure that she's clued into what the town's expectations are.
Okay. So we're moving forward.
Okay?
Great, thank you all.
Thanks.
All right.